I think you touched on it a little bit earlier, and I'll touch on it again. But like, let coaching become an art form. Let it be a profession, and don't let it just like, oh, the kids were no good today. Oh, the floor sucked. Oh, the hoop was bent. Like, dude, they're in your world, man. This is your environment. This is your, oh man, I get so fired up about this because, like, if you're a professional, you take it super serious. Like, if you're a true professional, you are going to treat that session like it's a blank piece of canvas, and you're going to paint the most beautiful picture on that piece of canvas. And it's an art form, and the kids come into your world. You control every aspect of the session. So if the session's dog water,
you are listening to the Bridging Impact Podcast, transforming leaders on and off the court with host Coach Furtado. Without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast. Today, I have Coach Mark Davis joining me. Coach Davis is a head coach at Salt Lake Community College, where they were the national champions in 2020 and 2021. He is also the owner of Utah United Official and is the head coach of the USL League 2 Path to Pro. And he'll share a little bit more about what that means. It's a little new to me as a basketball coach. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, I'm buzzing. Thank you, Coach. Thanks for the opportunity, and super excited to talk about how we're gonna, help change kids' lives and everything else. So I'm super excited. Blessed to be on.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in there. How did soccer change your life and impact your life growing up?
Yeah, it's hard for me to even think about my life without soccer, right? I got religion, I got soccer, and I got family, right? Those are kind of the three things that have really shaped who I am as a human being. And feel like, from the time I could walk, always had a soccer ball at every little activity we were at. It's very much a family thing. So we started Utah United kind of as a family. We started Salt Lake City Football Club, a youth organization that I was a part of for a long time, as a family. It's always been a family thing. Like, I'm talking mom, dad, brother, sister, nephews, nieces, the whole nine. Like, everyone's very involved, and it's something that we just do. We are a soccer family.
Right. And so when it becomes a family thing, it's connected, right? It's a part of you. It's that lifestyle. And so, when we talk about that building a community, building a family, what important pillars, what values did you want to make sure were in place when you were building some of these programs?
That's great. Standards and expectations drive everything for me. So everything I go back to, and I think this is gospel of Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, American football, like Pat Riley and basketball, standards, expectations. So for me, it's okay, we expect the highest level of quality, no matter what the skill level of the player is. We expect that player to get a premier level experience. So every day is your World Cup final. Every day is Game 7. You're dialed in as a coach, no matter if you're coaching high-level players, pro players, college players, whatever you're doing, it's got to be your Game 7, because that's what the kids deserve. So I think setting that culture of demanding excellence on every phase of your life is number one, and that the standards and expectations are there. So that would be the culture that we're looking to get.
That's huge. Yeah, every day being Game 7. And I'm just curious as someone, and one of the big things that I'm working on every single time, and as a basketball coach, and I watched one of your videos, is that's every single time you're the coach, you set the tone for the practice. And so I think talking about that personal responsibility, for you as a coach, how do you drum up? Let's say it's a day where you're tired, you're not feeling it. What are some things that you do to help you drum up that game 7 mentality?
Yeah, great question. I hold myself to a super high standard. Like, I think coaching is an art, like, and that's my brand. My brand is I don't take a day off. My brand is I'm dialed in on every session. My brand is that once I walk across that white line, like, it's game on, and I'm going to bring a certain level of energy into the training session. I'm going to bring a certain vibe into the training session, and it doesn't matter. So, like, for me, it's almost like on that, like, you have certain things as a human being that you won't bend on. Like, this is the standard every time, and like, that's for me is I'm going to bring energy. I don't care if it's the 4th session I'm in and I'm low energy and I'm having a bad day. I want to bring that energy, and so that's for me personally. And the fact that it is an art form, it is a profession for me, it's different. Like, would you expect a doctor to come in and half-ass it? No, you would expect a doctor to come in and be professional. You expect an attorney to do the same. I'm a professional football coach, soccer coach. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do my very best every single minute of every day, because that's what I am.
Yeah, 100%. And it's holding yourself to that accountability and that discipline. And you set the standards and the tones, because you have to model the way when we're shaping young athletes. And can you talk about how you help empower young athletes to do the same for themselves?
I mean, talking to kids. So like you said, like, we sent close to over 100 kids Division I, right? In the last 7-8 years. We're almost 10 plus players Division I every year at the JUCO that I work at. And then at the youth academy side, we're just trying our best to treat the kids like grown-ups. Like, the way you and I are speaking right now, this is the way we speak to the kids. Like, there is no, like, the way I speak to, when I pick up a phone and I talk to a parent, on the phone, that's the way I speak to the kid. So, I mean, we're direct with them. We're honest with them. Hey, buddy, we need you to be better today in this phase of the game, in this phase of the game, in this phase of the game. And then the parents respect that. So there's just a level of professionalism there that there doesn't seem to be any BS in between the lines. Like, what you see is what you get.
Right. There's no fluff. It's direct. You're straight to the point. And at the end of the day, it's because you want them to be better, right? You want them to improve. You want them to reach their potential, and you're going to treat them right. As I feel like you become how you are treated, right? In a certain extent. Obviously, there's certain autonomy and self-empowerment that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but you are creating and shaping an environment where you're creating young professionals, young leaders, just by the way you all are coaching them. And so, give me a kind of a glimpse at what the energy looks like. What are the little micro details of a great practice? What does that look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like?
Every day they wear the same stuff. So, there's no showing up in a Lionel Messi kit, Inter Miami kit, Argentina kit, Boca Juniors kit. Like, everyone's wearing the same stuff. So everyone's united. Everyone's together. They need to shake the coach's hands, right? Like, we have 4 coaches running that session. They come up, they look me right in the eyes, they look the coach right in the eyes, and we call it just like, hey, you're going to give a professional, handshake every single, and then you're going to shake everyone else's hands on the team. And then, you got older boys, because we train sometimes at the same time. You got older boys shaking younger boys' hands, and it's just a vibe. It's the professionalism. Like, we get together, and there's data on getting together and putting your arms around each other and high-fiving someone as they walk in to the environment. There's data that there's literally something released in you when you're giving someone a handshake and when you're linking up and you're giving powerful message. So, I mean, before every session, you're getting a powerful message from someone in the coaching staff. You're shaking everyone's hands, and we talk about standards and accountability almost every single day. The messaging 52 weeks of the year is virtually the same. It's the same on December 22nd, and it's the same in the middle of May. It's the same after a big loss. It's the same after a big win. So keeping that level of consistency is so high.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The consistency is so important for kids, and they are getting bombarded with so much information, right? They're on social media, and so it's of the utmost importance of whatever club programs or high school programs or college programs, whatever they're playing for, they're hearing a consistent message of standards and accountability and upliftment so they can understand they know what's going on. Otherwise, if you can give them a million pieces of information, but what do they really retain?
Right, right. So the question is, what do they retain after a session?
No, and I was just kind of, kind of going along. And so when we're talking about retaining information and that consistency, how has your coaching, philosophy and teaching points evolved over the years as a coach?
Really, I mean, great question. So I'm really training environment and game environment are two different things. For me, I want to win games. I like winning games. I prefer to win than lose. I think it's important for kids to learn how to win games. It really is important. It is important to adapt. If the team is pressing you like crazy, that you know how to play a big ball over the top, get your lines up, press, counter press, win second balls, play through the lines after you break that press. But in the training world, we're pretty much, this is what we want. Like we're digging a hole, we're pouring the cement, we're building a foundation of slapping, passing, receiving, checking your shoulder, 4v4 plus 2, keeping the ball, going to goal, playing two touch, playing quick, making good decisions. So we train one way, but once the game's played, you must adapt. So again, just back to what you originally said, is being really, really consistent in the training environment. So what they're hearing in September is the same thing they're hearing in November, which is the same thing they're hearing in August. And that's like our game model, right? Like you think about like Golden State Warriors, like they had a game model and they pretty much stuck to that game model until they couldn't, until the opponent made them do something different, and then they would adjust that game model. But like that's kind of like us, like your Manchester City, who just won their 4th English Premier League on Sunday. They have their game model, but you bet they'll adjust their game model here or there when the opponent gives them something else. And so like I guess in our training environment, we do the same thing.
Got you. So you would say there's like a base philosophy of how you all play, right? Style of play. And then, right, in-game adjustments, and then potentially with trainings, you'll make some tweaks along here and there, depending on obviously the teams you're playing. And, it's going to be different for certain age and stage. And so can you talk about how the training philosophy either stays the same or changes based on whether you have a U8 team or a U19 team?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, we want to be possession. We want to be possession based. We want to move the football. We're very blessed. We're at the state of Utah. We're inside the state of Utah. We're called Utah United in our USL Academy program. So we're attracting the best players in the state. So that's a good thing because we're able to play a certain brand of soccer, or we're able to minimum try to teach that brand of soccer of using width, using length, using depth, switching the point of attack, playing two touch, moving the football. So we really tried it. Like if you watch a U8 training session and then you watch a U19 session, you would be like, wow, like there's actually a lot of similarities between how the U8s are training and how the under 19s are training. Now, the under 19s, it's bigger, right? They play 11v11. These guys
Right.
play 7v7. Your average numbers and training sessions are going to be different. But we're really big on trying to make it look and feel like an actual football match too, right? Like we want it at the end of practice, we want it to look and feel like an 11v11 game. And if we don't have the numbers, we do everything we can to make it the numbers. I think a lot of coaches, specifically in the soccer world, I don't know the basketball world, but a lot of times I've watched basketball practice. I don't see a lot of 5v5 at the end of practice. I want to see freaking 5v5 because that's what the game is. I want to see 11v11 because that's what the game is. And I see a lot of coaches stay in the technical areas, or they stay in like the 4v4 plus 2 area, and they never get to the 11v11 or even the 9v9 area where I'm like, your practice, your training session needs to look and feel like the game, because then inside the game, you could be giving information saying, this is the way we want. So once now they get into the game and they need to adapt, they know how to adapt to those certain situations.
100%. No, that's actually one of the next questions I was going to ask you, and I'll make a brief comment on the basketball side of things. And you're talking about the word adapt, right? If you watch basketball, I mean, maybe the NBA looks a little cleaner, but in general, it's a messy game. And I'm sure you could probably say the same thing about soccer, right? You can probably go 11-0. You can run your offense and your defense and however the alignments. However, it's a reactionary game, right? You're also reacting to your teammates. You're reacting to the other opponents. So you have to be able to make those different. You talked about decisions in basketball. I call them reads, right? So different decisions, reads, whatever you want to call them. And so when you're structuring these practices, on your timeline, right? What percentage of practice is, quote unquote, skill work or technical work versus, 11 on 11, helping our players become adaptable and putting them in the mess?
Yeah, great question. I'm a quality over quantity type person. But I think kids, if they're serious about soccer, they need to be doing team trainings 4 to 5 times a week. And then they also need to be doing stuff by themselves 4 or 5 times a week. And then private train, like they need hours. If they're serious about their sport, they need freaking hours. So I'm like, look, the technical work should be done at home. Your first touch development, your ball handling for basketball, your finishing, a lot of that should be done at home. Like buy a bag of soccer balls and freaking go finish. Like go get 100 reps. This is the one thing that I love and I respect so much about basketball. So Salt Lake Community College is arguably one of the best junior colleges in men's basketball, men's soccer. They're powerhouses, right? They have had great players, even NBA players come through here, loads of NCAA Division I players every year. An average player spends 45 minutes shooting a day in basketball. An average NJCAA Division I player spends 45 minutes a day. Soccer, you know how many minutes one player spends finishing? Like they're lucky if they do an hour a week. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, so I like possession at training. I like in-game tactics in training, some passing patterns, some ball move, like the way they move off the ball. But I think the technical work, your juggling and all that, really should be done at home.
Yeah, we share a similar philosophy on that because you only get whatever, in college you may get a little bit more time, but let's say in high school you get 90 minutes to 2 hours, right? And so in that practice time, we could go over certain skills. However, it's of the utmost importance of us getting some 5-on-5, some 3-on-3, getting us our decision, making sure, you kind of talked about your passing patterns, right? So for us, it's, I guess, plays or sets. In terms of just how we want to move, right? And so if you, again, kind of take your points, it's your responsibility to go get better. And with your programs, one of the things that I'm going to try with my training program through BTG is to help kids kind of design and have some accountability for doing skill work at home. Is there anything that y'all have done over with the community college or the academy that you've seen in terms of helping kids, take initiative and have accountability for skill work at home?
It's a great question. I mean, that was the one thing I loved about COVID. I thought that like we're doing like trainings over Zoom, tactics over Zoom, YouTube challenges. Hey, submit this in. I love that stuff. No, the answer to that is since post COVID, I haven't really been able to hold kids accountable or even give them information. That is a part. That's an area that I really would like to get into inside of our academy and inside of what we do at the college is just finding a way to say, okay, here's stuff. Now, how do we hold you accountable, and what are you doing? And I don't have that solution yet, right? Like I know there's like some dribble up balls or level up balls or stuff like that. I think that stuff's absolute. I don't like that really don't think it's that great, but like I think that's kind of wreck. But I don't know if you ever find something that you're like, man, this app is amazing or this program's amazing. Let me know because like that's something we definitely want to get involved.
Right. And it's hard because we want to help them also establish that leadership and initiation on their own. And I also think it's important for them to have someone that they can, hold them accountable, right? If I'm posting on a Sunday that I did this such, then they'll be like, oh, well, Coach Mark or Coach Justin or Coach Furtado, they need us to do this, right? Or,
Right.
I said I was going to, be a starter my sophomore year, whatever it is, right? Just having that accountability piece.
Love that. No, yeah, I think we need to get something because COVID was interesting, man. Like that was a weird time of life. Like running a couple youth organizations. I was sitting on two boards, 501c3 nonprofit boards, soccer clubs, and it was like, man, we're trying to do anything and everything to try to add value to parents, add value to kids, and there was a level of accountability. And I actually thought a lot of kids got a lot better during COVID. A lot of kids went it was like one group of kids, like, man, they took it, not a lot of schoolwork, and they're out on the ball every day. And then there's the opposite group that they just dropped, and they really never kind of been able to rebound since then. So it's been an interesting couple of years to watch that.
Yeah, it is interesting because I still have conversations with parents, and kind of to shift gears in terms of talking about club is, I've had parents talk about how the pandemic really affected them, right? Like they were homebodies and their socialization skills have taken a lot, their love for the game. And so just trying to really get that to come back to it and talking about, club sports, what do you see in the club world now post COVID in the soccer world that you think is going well, and what are some opportunities do you feel like are for growth in the club soccer world?
I think parents are getting a lot smarter. I think parents, especially the parents that are all in on their kids, I think they're starting to really recognize what quality is, and they really can say, "Oh my gosh, like I see a difference in this training session and this training session." And they want to put their kids in the best environments. And like I've even had it happen on the opposite side. Look, like my kid is having fun, but he just wants to have fun. I'm like, great, dude, that's not us. That's not our brand. Like, we want serious players. We want kids that take soccer very, very serious. We want them to be dialed in every minute of every day. We want high expectations, high standards. So if that's not your kid, great. So the parent could be like, hey, I freaking love this, but the kid says, I don't want it. And be like, all right, well, good luck. Like, there's going to be a program for your kid. I think areas, and again, like I know there's going to be people listening to this podcast that maybe aren't necessarily, just 100% basketball. So I don't know if this applies, but I just think allowing parents to make decisions for their kids. I think sometimes there's organizations, there's different people, different things they kind of try to be controlling over what they can and can't do. I mean, we're now, Coach, Justin, we're now in the world of NIL, right? Like people they get to make the decisions. Everyone's a free agent right now. And this isn't 1998 where it seemed like, oh, yeah, you did this. You have to stay here. You can't go outside. Like, I like freedom. Like, coaches have their freedom. College athletes now have their freedom. They get to choose on where they want to be. Head coaches have always gotten to choose where they wanted to be. Like, Nick Saban could probably, if he wanted, why would he want to do this? But he could change jobs every year, and someone would be willing to probably pay him, $1 million more, and he could leverage himself up every year. And, he's an unbelievable coach. So why can't players do that? And I feel like on the youth side, that was happening a little bit. And I think it's getting a lot better. And I'm really proud of the way my parents handled a situation. I thought they were great. And, they fought for themselves. They fought for their ability to play where they wanted to play and not let organizations tell them where they can and can't go.
Right. Yeah, giving them the power and the autonomy. And I think that is one of the important parts of the new NIL world is, right, you have this choice of I want to put my kids in the best possible program. And I think just finding those programs, and then so for programs like ourselves, right, it's up to us to have a high quality program for them to want to keep coming back. Otherwise they'll go to a different program and move on, right? And so I feel like it's also kind of to continue on is with you've been very clear about what the standard is at your program, right? You're not a recreation program. You're not just for, I don't know what the fun soccer games are, but just kick the ball around and have a good time. You're really there to help people reach their potential and maximize their soccer career and that are serious about soccer. So just also being pretty upfront about that and having those clear expectations is really helpful.
Yeah. Like I couldn't agree more. Like I dabbled for a lot of years in the world of everything, right? U8 to U19, everything. And I just found out for me personally, I have a lot more fun and I coach a lot harder and I leave and I put my head on my pillow every night feeling really good about myself when I get to coach high level players. And so that is what I strive to do. We have the semi-pro team at USL, which is, if you know, like 85% of the kids that get drafted come out of the USL League 2. So, it's high level. And then we have our under 20 team, and then that moves down through U8. Like, I'm having the time of my life, but that's what I love doing. I love coaching high level players. I know people that love just coaching players and love projects, and they get a huge satisfaction of building players. I don't think there's not a wrong way to look at it. But when I decided a couple of years ago, is like, no, I want to spend my life and my days working with parents and kids that want to be here. Man, my life got really good. And trust me, the parents that want to be really good, they're freaking awesome. They're great. You recognize like the parents that their kid is like not there. Those are the parents that are pains in the neck. It's never the parents that are freaking ballers. The baller parents generally awesome. That's been my interaction, and so, now we have a full academy of ballers, and my headaches went from level 100 to 0. Now we just gotta get in and train the kids and have a blast.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like it's committed, right? They're committed. They're going to be there every day. They're going to be there every day to get better. And as for someone that is just starting an organization, I'm in year 2, what advice would you give me or any of the other young coaches that are listening that are trying to build that program from the ground up and setting those expectations so they can get that commitment for the long term?
Man, I would be picky. I would be picky on who you work with. Because if you work with great people, your reputation and your organization's reputation will go up, 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 up. So I would be picky, man. I mean, from an outsider, like you got the podcast, you're giving information, you're balling out. Like, I mean, like that's it, right? Like I think you're there, but I would be very picky with the types of people you want to work with. If they're a pain in the neck and they don't want to demand excellence, I would just say, here's the door. Like, I'm not going to beg you to stay inside my program. I know how good we are. So you either like this or you don't like it. If you don't like it, that sucks. We'll miss you. But this is my product. Like focusing on being iPhone. Like iPhone doesn't ask their consumers what they want. They develop it. They set the release date. The consumer doesn't set the release date. They tell the consumer what they want. That for me, be picky, man.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, playing the long game and making sure that you only have people in the program that are committed, and otherwise, that's okay. This is not a good fit for you. And I'm in LA. There's plenty of other programs for you, and I'm sure it's the same way in Utah. You can go over there and over there. They'll take your paycheck and move on.
Yeah, and you know, parents. I think people take craps on parents all the time, and I think you got to utilize it. Like parents can be your biggest enemy, or parents can be the best thing to help you. And I hope there's a lot of parents listening to this pod, and if they are, they're probably freaking awesome. You know, but it's probably the knuckleheads that aren't listening and trying to get better and self-improve. But like, back to your question, like utilize parents. Like parents are great. Like they're our biggest at the academy. Like, dude, they support, like, it actually gets me emotional. Like, they support the community college. They support the USL League 2 team. We had almost 1,000 people at the game on Saturday night. Like, amazing, coach. Like, amazing. But that's all the parents. The parents are bought in, and they've kind of built this community. And it's like, man, like they don't have to do that on a Saturday night. Like, I had a couple, Chris and Bree Blymiller. They had an anniversary. Guess what they did? They went to a freaking game. Like, I mean, I got the chills. Like, that's incredible. Like, you know, and that's utilizing the parents to help your program in LA, where they got a billion different things going on every night and beautiful weather and different things. But yeah, that would be my advice is be picky, utilize parents. Because parents can either be your best enemy, or they could be your worst enemy, or they can be your biggest ally.
Yeah, and in all honesty, you know, for those that are listening, I actually do have great parents, and I've been blessed. I would say 98% of the athletes I've got to work with have been very committed and want to be there and have been great and consistent. So, you know, I think, you know, obviously there's still some opportunities of growth for me in terms of, you know, potentially maybe letting some people go. But that's a growth for the long term. And, you know, as we kind of enter the overtime, it's extra time, right? That's when it goes over 90 minutes.
Yeah. College doesn't have extra. I like college, man. So college, if you get a yellow card, they stop the clock. You know, I like. I think FIFA should look into the college rules, because like now it's getting out of hand, dude. Like there's like 12 minutes of extra time every single stoppage time. It's wild.
I know that makes more sense to me for sure. But as we enter that part of our podcast, you know, what opportunities and, you know, learnings and improvement processes would you want to leave the coaches with for today's session on how they can lead themselves better so they can lead their kids better?
I think you touched on it a little bit earlier, and I'll touch on it again. But like, let coaching become an art form. Let it be a profession, and don't let it just like, oh, the kids were no good today. Oh, the floor sucked. Oh, the hoop was bent. Like, dude, they're in your world, man. This is your environment. This is your. Oh man, I get so fired up about this, because like, if you're a professional, you take it super serious. Like if you're a true professional, you are going to treat that session like it's a blank piece of canvas, and you're going to paint the most beautiful picture on that piece of canvas. And it's an art form, and the kids come into your world. You control every aspect of the session. So if the session's dog water, that's on you. like if the session's brilliant, that's because of you. Like you set that tone. And it's like, I had the opportunity to go to South Korea. Obviously, I don't know Korean. And I was like, man, this is intimidating. I'm running a training session and, I had an interpreter there and I'm like, you know what? Just let me just try to just do this without an interpreter. And I ran the session and I brought super high intensity and like I ran it like it was a college session. And I painted a picture and the kids had a ball and there was high standards and high accountability and it was my brand. That's who I am. That's what I'm about. And I loved it. And it was kind of like, that was honestly almost one of those moments in my development to being like, every time I walk across the white line, this is what I'm going to deliver. And that would be the last thing I leave is like, they come into your practice, you're in control. You set the tone, you paint the picture, you be an artist, you be a professional, whatever you want to say into your mind of how you set the tone, you set the mentality of the group. And, from there, like it makes coaching a lot of fun. It's exhausting because like, you got your soccer coaches. I don't know if you go to a lot of soccer fields and you got a lot of soccer purists that think they shouldn't be coaching on the sideline, which US soccer was actually even a little bit kind of behind that. Like get your lawn chair, set the chair up, sit there, do your halftime, do your pregame. And I'm like, dude, go watch Pep Guardiola coach, the greatest coach in the world, arguably the GOAT of all soccer coaches in the world. He's up on the touchline. He's giving information. He's pushing. He's pulling. He's talking about defending, talking about attacking, using whip, using length. I've seen basketball coaches chill too. I think it's almost your job as the coach to go be the sixth man on the pitch or the court. It's my job to almost be the 12th man and help the boys and help, almost give energy to the boys and make sure that training session isn't flat or that game's not flat. I'm not coaching in the World Cup, but you never know. Right? You got to put your best foot forward every single day and see what the heck happens.
No, I love that. That's a great place to finish off and just setting that tone and being the sixth man. And I can hear it. And I feel like, giving the reminders and being there and really driving that force, right? Don't let the kids run the session. We're the professionals. You're the iPhone or whatever example you want to do. So where can people, follow you and connect with you if they really enjoyed the conversation and want to get some more setting the tone, if they want to set their tone on their Instagram feed?
Yeah. So I've done a lousy job on Twitter, on X. I was pretty good on that for a long time, but I've dropped the ball on that. But I'm Coach Mark Davis 11 on all platforms. So on X and on Instagram. Our Instagram feed is probably the best. Like there's good content on there. And I'm grateful for you, grateful for this opportunity to step on the pod and just chop it up. It gives me energy and it makes me excited to get out in an hour and a half and go run a good practice. So
I love it. Yeah, no, it gives me energy too. That's why I keep it going. So thank you so much for your time today, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bridging Impact Podcast. We'd love it if you would like, subscribe, leave a comment and a review on whatever platform you're on. It's the best way to help us grow. We appreciate you for doing that. We'll shout you out on social media. I'd also love if you connected with me on social media. Let me know your thoughts. And this is why I do it. I want to share knowledge and wisdom from experienced leaders to people like yourself and myself so we can have this dialogue and move forward, make an impact on the world. So stay tuned, stay subscribed. Cheers.